The big story, Nick Castellanos benched. The streak is snapped. Rob Thomson puts the hammer down and says, "You don't talk to me like that." What a sequence. Okay? What a sequence. Inappropriate comments. Rob showing a pulse. In a way, I'm going to almost approach these 4 hours the way Hugh long talks. It's going to be 4 hours of long talking through this because there's a lot to figure out. What does this mean? How does the clubhouse respond to it? How does Nick individually respond to it? How do players respond to it individually? What does Rob do moving forward? Does it impact decisions late in games down the road when you want to have a defensive replacement situation play out? Whew. Chaos. 215-592-9494. That's the phone number. We are going to start the show reacting to Rob Thomson telling Nick, "You're not playing Game 2 in this series. You have a price to pay for the inappropriate comments you made after I made a change late in Game 1 in Miami." Let's start things off by listening to Rob Thomson explain what happened and his decision. Here's the manager.
Last night, one of the things about Nick, one of the many things about Nick that I love, is that he's very emotional. He loves to play, and he loves to play every inning of every game. I just thought last night he made an inappropriate comment after he came out, and so today he's not going to play, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Rob made the right decision. I believe something was said that was crossing the line clearly, or else Rob would have never done that. So if Nick is going to be selfish, if Nick is going to be disrespectful, if Nick's not going to put the team first by improving in the outfield when you're trying to win a game, you have to hold that player accountable. And Rob is known to give his clubhouse filled with veterans a long leash. But sometimes enough is enough. Sometimes someone does something that is so wrong, you have no choice. Nick forced Rob to have to do this. And the weird and strange part of it all is it seems there are Phillies fans that have been calling for Topper to show life. He's been called Rob Zombie forever. And when he finally does, those same people are siding with Nick, saying it was wrong for Rob Thomson to try and send a message this way? Absolutely not. I'm actually wondering, did Rob realize he needed to do this? He needed to make this clubhouse uncomfortable. He must make a strong statement to everybody around to shake things up a tad, regardless on what their record is, regardless on how many regular season wins they have. I've always felt that there's something off chemistry-wise. There's something that's not clicking perfectly the way a championship caliber team would click. And now I'm watching this go down and I say, what a selfish move by Nick. Dude, it's game 1 in Miami in the middle of June. You play every game. You haven't been out of the lineup since 2023 to start a game. Shut up and do what's best for the team. But now I'm worried about what this means in the future. And that's not to say Rob did this poorly. I think he handled this the way he was supposed to handle this. If this crumbles, it's on Nick. If this goes south, it's because Nick screwed this up by having a very selfish comment. I'm worried that this could really start a bad run of things starting to turn, guys side-eyeing each other, guys not buying all in. It's not a together group. It's not a we are one, we are a family type of foundation in that locker room. And again, it's not because Rob mismanaged this. It's because Nick made it that way. He let the rest of the team know, hey, Johan, I don't give a damn about you. Hey, it's cute that there's some center field back and forth situations playing out with the platoon. And, it's cool to see Otto Kemp jumping around, playing a bunch of different positions. I'm Nick. I don't play that game. You guys might, not me. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Babe Ruth? I mean, come on, man. You're not that good. If I could go back, I wouldn't even redo the contract. You haven't lived up to the standard that was the final year in Cincinnati. I'd burn that contract to the ground today if I could. Who do you think you are? It's unbelievable. And it's a bad vibe right now. Just when you thought maybe they were getting off the schneid after Pittsburgh and after losing however many games it was in a 10, 11 game span, they finally looked good. Then you throw this wrinkle. But this is where you get to learn about who's in that clubhouse. Because sometimes getting uncomfortable and challenging each other can benefit you if you have the right guys, if you have the right team. It worked with AJ and Jalen and BG on these airwaves. It's not apples to apples. But I'm saying sometimes there is conflict. Sometimes there are issues. But you can absolutely jump over that hurdle if you have the right group. I didn't think they had the right group prior to this. Now I'm feeling worse. And the criticism on Rob that he took it public is also foolish. I think he had to make it public because he doesn't have an injury. They're not going to make up some random injury and break the streak, so there's no sugarcoating it. This is what it is. And I almost wonder if he had to take this route because this wasn't the first time. Maybe this is enough. Now, it's not as if this situation where he gets yanked in the game happens often. It doesn't. But I bet you Rob is now thinking it's going to be a part of the process to shore up our defense to try to help us win games. And if Nick doesn't see that clearly and doesn't value that over individual statistics, uh-oh. So this is how he's going about his business. To make sure Nick understands, I call the shots, dude, not you. Because let's be honest, if Rob Thomson is willing to do this on June 17th in Miami, what do you think it's going to be like when you're playing the Mets? What do you think it's going to be like if you have to play a wild card round? How do you think it's going to go if you are in an NLDS? Of course, you're going to improve your late game defense. Now, it's not as if the defense in right field showed up in this game. That's sort of another issue. But this is, wow, this is stunner. One of my group chats sent a screenshot, and I honestly thought it was fake. I laughed and went, okay, real funny. No. It happened. So I want to know out there as we get started at 215-592-9494, and I get my original instant hot thoughts out onto these airwaves for you. How do you feel about this situation? Do you think Rob did the right thing? Are you team Nick Castellanos? I don't know how you can be. If you're team Nick, I just think you hate Rob. But if you objectively look at how this played out, You can't yell from the mountaintops that Rob doesn't have any, stones. And then when he shows he's got stones, that he's an idiot. Because at that point, then Rob can never win you over. You just hate Rob. Nick forced Rob to have to do this. It's like a parent that needs to punish their kid after they make a mistake. The parent doesn't want to put the kid in timeout and make them miss a fun day with their friends. They don't want to force the kid to miss a day down the shore. But if you're being stupid, if you're being silly, if you're making dumb decisions, how else do you learn? Unbelievable. 215-592-9494. Before I get to the phones, I want to bring in Luke Nichols. And I am curious where you stand on the drama that is Phillies baseball.
Never sleeps, does it?
No.
I mean, I stand with Rob Thomson in this instance. I think whatever Castellanos said, I trust Rob Thompson's judgment that it crossed the line and it went a little too far.
Yeah, I understand that. I agree with you.
And even then, Rob Thomson doesn't seem like the guy to overreact to really anything. I mean, he has the same expression after wins. He has the same expression after losses. He's pretty much the same guy. He is who he is. So I don't think Castellanos would have said something minor, and maybe there's a small argument leading up to that where Thomson had enough of it and said, you know what, no, you're done. Go sit down over there. You're not playing tomorrow either. I mean, what? He's only been thrown out once? Maybe twice from a game. So let's not act like this is some hothead who's going to just start riling up and arguing and starting fights with his players in the dugout. That's not going to happen. Other managers back then, maybe. And the thing about Castellanos, we kind of know who he is when it comes to... He's very straightforward. He's very blunt, and sometimes the bluntness can come off as weird or like he's in a mood or something, because whenever he's talking to the media or, doing some PR thing, he gives some weird answer or he doesn't feel like answering a question and he'll just give a one-word Marshawn Lynch-esque answer and just move on to the next one. So he can be very straightforward. I do wonder, like you, and I said this to TK as well, I wonder if there were, instances before this where he came close to crossing that line, or he did cross that line, and Thomson kind of ignored it. I'm like, that's just Nick. It's a one-time thing. And it's been kind of these repeated happenings of him. Maybe it's not to Thomson either. Maybe it's to other coaches. Maybe it's to other players.
Yes.
Maybe it's, I would assume, other players. I hope not anybody in the front office. If it's someone in the front office, he wouldn't be here right now. So I wonder if it's happened before and Thompson's radar has kind of been alert to something like this, and then it actually happened, and that's where we are now. So I don't think Thomson would have overreacted. I think the fact that he said he crossed the line, that just makes it seem like, to me, okay, Thomson has a line here. He seems like a guy. He's not going to overreact. I trust him. He's never done this before. He's never done this for a guy who hasn't, hustled to first base or who hasn't, really hustled to second on a double and it's been a little close, which there's been times that Harper's done that. Trey has done. Every player has done that before, and he's never disciplined those players for that. So why should I question him now when he finally does something?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you nailed it where it might not be this same instance, obviously, because how many times have we watched him get yanked in right field for a defensive replacement? Not many times. So it may be to a teammate. He may say something to somebody behind the scenes over the years that was too much. Because I even think if it happened once, Rob Thomson may not react the way that he reacted. So something is fishy about this. And just to put it in perspective, I saw Corey Seidman of NBC Sports Philadelphia tweet this out around 5 o'clock last night. The Phillies have picked their spots removing Castellanos defensively. Wasn't just that he played 162 games last year, but there were only 2 non-blowouts where he left early. An extra innings game versus New York for a pinch runner, and in game 162. So they didn't once pull him for a defensive replacement, but did last night. So, but this is, again, where I get a little baffled with Nick's view of it. What's the goal? To win or to worry about your ego? Because if the goal is to win and you have guys on your bench that are better than you defensively and your mission is to win a World Series, then shut up.
That's the thing. He's got to know, like, there's other guys. I may be the better hitter, like, I'm, the better player overall, but there are better defenders than me that can go in right field. It's a close game. Let me not be hurt about this, possibly saving a run by putting whoever out there. I don't even know who he was replaced with at this point.
I think it was Rojos.
I assumed it was Rojos, but I didn't even know. Like, I almost didn't even realize it at the time, I guess, when it happened. But it's like, I don't know why he was so hurt about it. Like, was it because he was back home in Miami? Did he, was he feeling some type of way? Was he just not used to it? Like, I really do not know. So
I think I know the answer. Speculating. But if it's happening now, is he starting to see what this can mean when the game's intensifying? He wants to be out there in 7th, 8th, 9th innings in playoff games in August. And again, if you realize that in the middle of June against Miami, they're pulling this move out of their rear end, the Phillies, that is he seeing the writing on the wall that this is something that they're going to lean in on, and he's not a fan of that?
Well, I would hope he knows and would know that they would only pull him out of the game if it was guaranteed that he wasn't going to be up again. Like, his spot in the lineup was not going to come up again. Like, it's the top of the 9th inning, and you need to save a run, or else you're going to go back to the bottom of the 9th. Okay, let's put Rojos out there instead of Castellanos so we can close this game out. He's got to understand, all right, more than likely, I'm not going to be up again. I wouldn't have to bat again in the lineup. Let's put the defensive guy out there. That makes sense. They're not going to take him out in the 7th inning when there would still be a good chance that he bats in the 8th or the 9th. I think they know they wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because as I'm looking through the play-by-play game log of Monday night, he was yanked in the 8th inning. Rojos comes in the game. He plays center. Kepler gets moved to right field. And in the top of the 9th inning, Rojos comes up and bats. And he ends the inning with a ground out in a 5-2 game right after Bohm had that single to give them some separation. So I wonder when that comment was made. Was it made after Rojos' at-bat? Was it made instantly after the decision was made? I don't know.
That could, maybe, because that is, what is that? That's 6 batters before Rojos. So you're thinking, all right, maybe Castellanos gets up in the 9th inning, but, there's 6 batters away. Let's put Rojos out there and move guys around. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe he realized in his head, like, all right, take me out. I'm probably not going to bat. And then he's like, oh, I got a chance to bring in a couple more runners here. And then he sees Rojos ground out. I don't know.
I told you.
Maybe he said, I can't speculate, but maybe he said something about Rojos.
No, you could speculate. That's what we do.
Like, it could be the fact that it crossed the line. I don't think it was something personal to Topper. When I hear cross the line, it makes me think he said something about a teammate.
It could be that, but I can't rule it out that it's something negative towards Topper. What if he called him, hey? He could have done that. He could have done that.
But that just it doesn't seem like something you do to your manager of 3-4 years.
He said he's an emotional guy, so clearly the emotions got the best of him in that moment. I'm not saying he's looking himself in the mirror proud that he did that, but maybe the emotions got the best of him and he said something bad about Topper. You know what? I'd rather him be, I'll be honest with you, if you lay out 2 scenarios, he's saying bad things about Rojos or he's saying bad things about Topper, I'd rather him say bad things about Topper.
Oh, me too. I think Topper would agree.
Yeah.
I think he would agree. But no, you bring up a good point with the Rojos batting in the 9th thing. I didn't even realize that.
No, I told you we're going to be doing some long talking through this. So this was me with the people, long talking through this, and that's just one of many little wrinkles we're going to find out through this program. The big thing, though, as you mentioned, it grows into a big thing, and it very well could. If there's clearly turmoil that doesn't go away from Topper and Casty, and then others pick up on that, and then you're looking around the room and it's whisper down the lane and it's split everyone versus Nick, or it's Nick and a couple of guys. Maybe Bohm doesn't like Topper because of the way that he was benched in the playoffs last year. And while he may publicly say he loves Rob, deep down there's always that very upsetting feeling where he thought he got stabbed in the back by the manager. So Bohm feels a certain type of way. Now Casty feels a certain type of way. And maybe Marsh thinks he's getting disrespected by the way Rojos is used. And those three are in one corner. The rest of the team is sort of in a different mindset. And there's no doubt about it, this stuff happens. No doubt about it. And again, if that's the case, is that Rob or is that Bohm? You're the issue. Nick, you're the issue. Marsh, you're not as good as you think you are. Now, there's no reason for me to think Marsh is fully in the same capacity as those two, but I'm just using it as an example of maybe there is something to that thought where it can split up a clubhouse. And a clubhouse that I feel, I don't think they hate each other, but I don't think they smell like a team that has a special bond either. I think they're okay. You know, I think they enjoy each other's company. I don't think they hate each other in there, but this can brew into something. But I'm just saying, from a 1,000-foot view prior to this dilemma, they don't seem like a team that's all there as one with this togetherness that is rare and the bond is super special and they're willing to do anything for one another, sacrifice for one another. Clearly not. Clearly, they're not willing to sacrifice for one another, or else we wouldn't even be having this discussion this morning. And when that's the case, this can go the other way. Instead of them getting tight-knit and closer and buying all in, it starts to get very selfish. And I think this has the potential to go that way. I didn't think they were where they needed to be anyway, and I didn't think they'd get there anyway. But again, I didn't think we'd be getting here where it's messy and sloppy. Let's go to Gary in Whitehall. What's happening, Gary?
Ding, 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 ding. You hit it. You hit the nail right on the head there, bros. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing good. I got to see the Stanley Cup hoisted, and there's nothing better in sports.
It's going to pain me to say this, though, but the Flyers are so far away.
I know. I wish I could lie to you, but I can't.
Where's my Sam Bennett? Where's my Sam Reinhart?
Yeah.
Where's my Markov? No.
Well, Sean Couturier, he's Barkov, isn't he?
And it was really ticked me off. It's freaking Bob. You know?
That's the one. They're still paying Brizgalov. And as much as I love Ed Snyder, we all love Ed Snyder in town, there were some decisions made that clearly set this franchise back. And watching Bob be a Vezina type of guy and champion and twice now. And I mean, that's our goalie. We sit here and say we never have a goalie. We're watching our goalie. He's just winning Stanley Cups for the wrong team.
Yeah, you got that right. But yeah, no, you said it right. I mean, what's Topper supposed to do? I mean, he did what he had to do. We don't know what was said, but that's something that could have been said behind closed doors, just one-on-one, mano-a-mano, and they could have settled the differences there. But Eagles got in the way, and I was telling Luke, I'm surprised that hasn't happened before with Castellanos because he's known for, the big ego and the big mouth. So,
let me ask you this, though, Garrett, just listening to you talk and the way you're phrasing it. Do you blame Topper for taking this publicly? Do you think it was methodical? Do you think maybe he tried to have talks with him in the past behind closed doors about certain things and then felt, I can't do that anymore because it's not working? It seems like you're also, and you're not wrong to feel this way, I'm just trying to get a gauge here. Are you saying that Topper is in the wrong as well as Casty, or do you think it's more of a Nick problem? What's the split?
Did he really have to go to the media with it?
It's a fair question. It's a fair question.
That could have been done in-house, and it would have popped up after the game. That was my decision, and that would have been it, the whole Bohm situation, March, whatever. If that's how they feel, you know what, then they're not as tight as we thought they were. They're on this 3-year run, and you'd think they would be a little tighter on what they are, and obviously it must not be if it's getting like this, getting to be like this. And if we had a so-called president of operations, would be a little more on site, on hand, instead of worrying about what's happening in Nashville all the time. Maybe that would be beneficial to the manager, beneficial to the players, but that seems like that's not really happening. So, I mean, I don't know. I know I want to hit Topper up on last night's game because he should have saw how Luzardo was feeling after the 5 and should have never went out for the 6th inning.
Yeah, I've heard that complaint, and I think it's valid. I also think this is what happens, to flow right into what you were saying with Dave, when you sit on your hands and you don't have a good enough bullpen. I've seen Rob now ask the starter to do a little bit more to squeeze a little bit more juice out of certain guys when it's pretty well known and documented that they probably don't have that much left, but it's because you just don't have a bullpen. I tried telling everyone Tanner Banks is a stiff, and then who else was out there? Mercado at one point was pitching. I think what happens is there's a domino effect where Rob has to manage the game poorly because there are really no options in the pen, and this is unfortunately sometimes not sometimes, like all the time, the repercussions that you pay when your roster isn't good enough.
Then again, you go back to Monday's game, did we have to go through 4 relievers in that game?
Right.
I mean, I know maybe he's trying to work Taiwan into being a one inning game, 1 inning pitch a game, and trying to get him used to that. But he only threw 9 pitches on Monday night. He could have came back out and pitched another inning.
And Abel was at 77 or so through 5. So what if you asked him to pitch another inning?
Exactly. The mishandling of the bullpen, and especially the mishandling of the bad bullpen that we have, you're not in New York anymore. You don't have Mariano Rivera, waiting to win.
Yeah, and you're right, though. I mean, it's at times, and thanks, Gary. I'm a Topper guy, and sometimes I think his decisions get a little too picked apart because the bigger issue is it's not a good bullpen. So when we get angry that he's mismanaging a bad bullpen, sometimes the decisions look worse because the real issue is it's a bad bullpen. And if you fix the bad bullpen part of it, then the decisions don't look as bad anymore. It's a cause and an effect, if that makes sense. But I've seen him push Nola when it was clear Nola didn't have anything left. But because of how the bullpen was used previously and some of the upcoming games, they had to because they were so desperate to ask him to go back into the 7th. And then there's a couple base runners, and you're not able to get a reliever in there that can get out unscathed, and then the whole thing falls apart. But again, the bigger issue is the lack of talent. That's why you're in the predicament that you're in. But, Gary hit on something there. Gary mentioned that over the last few years, you watch this group collectively go on runs together, and you think that would play into their strengths of being together. They've been through the grind. They've been through tough pain. But at some point, I think the pressure actually can make you crack. When there's no expectation, when it's a weird sort of feeling like you've seen in 22, when we didn't like them until the playoffs happened and this crazy ride came out of nowhere and all that stuff. But now that there's pressure, and there were reports about Bohm being traded, and Bohm was sat in a playoff game after winning the division and being a huge part of the offense and batting cleanup all year. And, you enter this season where you need a sense of urgency from everyone to get it done now. I think you're tight. I think you're uncomfortable. And then you're snappy. I'm thinking about this on the fly, but maybe, Luke, can you bring up my music bed for analogies? Because I think I'm having one brew on the fly here. So we do something new here called analogize. I'm analogizing. Listen, as a married man, I can't pretend there's never a disagreement. Sometimes there's a disagreement. You're in the kitchen, you're putting away the plates, the knives, the forks, the coffee mugs. And you can tell there's some hostility. Start talking about a few things. You didn't clean off the mugs enough. It's still a little wet. Now you're putting it in the cabinet. You don't want it to get a little nasty in there. Maybe mold starts to form because you're not fully cleaning the mug and it's still a little wet. It gets snappy. It gets tense. The wife yells at you. What is clean the damn mug? And you go, whoa. Whoa. All right. I didn't think we were that tense. But it all stems from something that happened the night before. She asked you to take the trash out. You said, I will. You didn't. You missed trash night. So it stems from a situation that happened in the past. And now the tension is real. And it affects the next day. And that's when the dishwasher episode occurs. How's that for an analogize? And analogizing. I think I believe we were trying to work on it as a verb. Analogizing.
The analogizing.
Analogize. Analogizing.
You're the analogizer.
There you go. Ooh, I like
the
that.
Analogizee.
Now, did I sell a good story?
I think you did, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I was following. I understood it.
Okay. I always need... I need someone else's input. Because sometimes...
I understood it fully.
Okay.
I could picture me in this situation and my girlfriend yelling at me and me saying, I don't know, they're dry enough, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I have to redry them.
Yeah.
Or I have to do something else.
Right, because there's nothing worse than when there's a bowl on the top rack and you just pick it out, the water flies everywhere. And you go, I didn't know that was in there. Splashes all over the place. You don't really wash it from there. You just put it right back in the cabinet. But how this makes sense with the Phillies... Phillies over the few years, that's the trash, right? The trash. And then this year, this is the dishwasher episode.
Hey, can you just win the World Series this year? Yeah, I'll do it. I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to win the World Series.
Yeah.
Wait, now they didn't. They lost in the NLCS.
Uh-huh.
They lost in the NLDS.
Right.
What's going on?
Right. Screw you. I'm leaving you. Well, I don't know if it had to get to that extent.
I don't know.
Yeah. Divorce.
I'm going to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They're going to defer my contract for 15 years.
See what I'm saying? This opens up the big can of worms. Anyway, thank you for the music, Bet on the Fly.
It's very nice music.
Yeah, it very much so is. So here's Scott Fransky.
Wanted to get you the exact quote that Nick had to say when asked his perspective on the situation prior to today's game. The 0-1 pitch, swinging a foul back. He said, quote, I understand the decision. It was when I got taken out. I wasn't happy about it. I spoke my mind. He said, meaning Thomson, he said that I crossed a line, so my punishment is that I'm not playing. The pitch is fouled away to the right side. The follow-up question was if it was frustrating for him, given how he prides himself on playing every day. Nick's response was, it's his decision. He's the manager.
One thing I didn't like about that, and I didn't hear that. Luke told me we had that in the system from the game. That was my first time hearing it. There was a portion in there where Nick said, Rob said I crossed the line, implying he didn't feel he did. Implying that he did not think that what he did was out of pocket. And that's a problem. Now, again, that can be cleaned up with a statement by addressing the media, by him just acknowledging he was in the wrong and that he knew what he did was wrong. But I'm listening to Nick. And by the way, all we're getting is comments from Nick in word form. I want to see Nick. It smells fishy to me that we're getting leaks of what Nick's statement is from random people online with a couple of different quotes, but no real evidence. Not saying they didn't say it, but I'm just saying I want to see him present. I want to see him in front of the camera. I want to see him stand up and face the music. This is a Bush League way of handling the situation the night of it happening. The team clearly went through Scott Fransky and some others to read comments made by Nick. No. I want to see Nick make the comments. But what I just heard, can we play that again? I want to make sure I'm digesting this right. Again, this is the first time that I'm hearing it. Luke told me that we had it, and I said, yeah, of course. I would love to get Fransky's view on it all and what he had to break down. Play that one more time for me.
Wanted to get you the exact quote that Nick had to say when asked his perspective on the situation prior to today's game. The 0-1 pitch, swinging a foul back. He said, quote, "I understand the decision. It was when I got taken out. I wasn't happy about it. I spoke my mind. He said," meaning Thomson, "he said that I crossed a line, so my punishment is that I'm not playing."
Okay, you can pot it down after that. Am I off base here, Luke, or am I reading too much into it? When things like this happen, I tend to go to the nth degree on certain things. But that implies that Nick doesn't think he did anything wrong.
It does imply that. And it implies he thinks that what he said was maybe not okay, but maybe not that bad to warrant not playing.
But that's a problem then.
Yeah, and at the very end, it's kind of like, oh, well, he's the manager. Like, I wonder the tone of how he said it. That's why I agree with you where I can't have just quotes being read to me by Fransky, as amazing as Fransky is and everyone is.
It's not a Fransky thing.
I need to hear it from Castellanos.
Right, yeah.
I need to hear it from him. I need to hear his thoughts specifically. I need to get him in front of a microphone. Because it's...
Guess
I don't
what?
love that. I really don't love that.
And if he does, and we don't like what he says... We're going to go, probably shouldn't have got in front of that microphone. Like you only get in front of the microphone if you're handling this the way that I laid out. You don't get in front of the microphone and play the game. Play the game, whatever game he wants to play.